And on the eve of the 112th Congress, we are joined by Frank Luntz and a group of newly elected GOP members of Congress. And we continue now with our freshman focus group. Frank.
John, while we were in the break, a couple members talked to me about what's going on in terms of bipartisanship and cooperation. And I want to go because you don't come from a Republican district, and you're also one of the youngest members of this new conference.
Yeah. Absolutely. One of the things I think it's important we remember, when Republicans had their chance, not too many years ago, they had the White House, they had the House and the Senate, Republicans spent big. And they made a lot of poor decisions. So when we had the chance to repeal or to put in free market solutions for health care, Republicans passed on it. So yes, I'm not one that says we need to cut loose and do everything that the other side says, but we have to recognize it's not Republican or Democrat here. We need to be fighting for real solutions.
Do you guys agree with this?
Well, I think we talked about sticking to our principles. Sean brought that up, and I think if you look at the size of this class, it's historic, and we can have a lot of clout, and as long as we are cohesive and we agree, and it sounds like we do agree in principle, we will be a successful 112th Congress.
Unity and organization is the key. I am one vote from Indiana, but there's 87 of us here who are coming, and we can be a very powerful bloc.
And Frank, there's common sense things to do as well. I mean, an issue that's important to me is repatriating profits that we're making to come back and invest in America. I mean, this is the kind of a thing. It's not controversial.
So you're calling for an end to corporate welfare?
It's not corporate welfare. It's taking those dollars and giving them the ability to come back and invest in creating jobs here rather than creating jobs overseas.
But I think the one thing that you got to look at it, this isn't a Republican issue. It's not a Democrat issue. This is a math issue when we're talking about our debt and our unfunded liabilities. We have $14 trillion of debt and anywhere from 50 to 70, 80 trillion dollars of unfunded liabilities due to our entitlement program. So this is not a Republican or Democrat issue. It's just the numbers don't work.
Well, you have to understand, I flunked calculus, so...
Math is this simple, Frank. You know, orientation, they gave us a laptop computer, and as a businessman, they handed it to me. It's probably a $1,000 computer, and all I could think of was $600 of it was paid for, $400 of it was put on a credit card. And I thought about that every point in our orientation. We can't stay on this path. It's going to put all of us at risk.
Sean, they're talking about accountability. They're talking about spending. What would you like to know from them?
You know, as I'm listening, Frank, I love the talk about standing on limited government, constitutional first principles, because I, too, identify myself as a conservative first. The ways of Washington are often corrupting, even with people with the best of intentions. And as they begin their new careers tomorrow, I wanted to ask them, one of the first tests they're going to have is on the issue of raising the debt ceiling. And there's going to be talk and fear that the full faith and trust of the federal government is going to be in jeopardy. There's going to be talk about, are you willing to shut down the government? And I wanted to find out where they stand on that issue.
Okay. Who wants to start? Go ahead.
I'll tell you what I'll say about that. My grandfather used to tell me, measure twice and cut once. And I think that the thing we have to do there is make sure that we have all the facts and that we're completely honest with the general public about where we are and what the result is of voting to raise it and what the result is of not voting to raise it.
And have they been honest up to this point?
I don't think that we have the facts. No, I don't trust what I've been told yet.
I just don't think we have. I mean, we get sworn in tomorrow. We haven't been serving. We're starting to get the facts now.
Look, we got to stop spending in this country. You don't start a diet by going to the drive-through window. We got to stop spending.
Tim, you and I saw each other there.
Not a zip code, yeah, but I tell you what Corey's talking about is so important, though, that if we start looking at spending cuts first and not talk about increasing the debt ceiling, let's talk about the spending cuts that are necessary to avoid it. If we can make some systematic changes to the way that we do government in D.C., maybe we'll seize an opportunity not to raise the cap. It should not start there.
Tim is correct, and that's going to necessitate a debate on the size and scope of government, federal government juxtaposed with state government, juxtaposed with individual personal responsibility, and that is a debate that I think all of the freshmen welcome.
Well, here's the deal. Sean, I'm hoping that we can come back and talk to them after 100 days. Let's see what they've done. Let's see if it is. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I don't want to belabor a point, but I really think this is going to be important because of all the talk of principle, which I'm excited and inspired about. And if I was another host, I'd have a tingly feeling running up down my leg right now. But in all seriousness, when it comes down to this vote, are they willing to say we'll shut down the government? Are they willing to say, unless we get spending cuts, there will be no increase in the debt ceiling?
Easy answer, yes.
You got it?
Easy answer is yes.
Easy answer, yes.
Yeah, and I think, too, I think the calamity that reaching that credit card cap, that debt ceiling, that the administration is going to tell us that the world will end, I'm not convinced.
Same thing.
You still have to be cognizant of the fact, though, that this is a massive problem that has happened over a long period of time. And if we are expecting to come in within a month or in a few days, make everything better, then we're setting ourselves up for failure. We have to be honest and open, and I think the American people realize the gravity and magnitude of this issue. And it's not going to be as easy as just saying yes and no, because I'm not going to make a decision that's imprudent and is going to be irresponsible.
You showed in Indiana that cutting 15%.
It's a good opportunity to embrace the debate. That's what we're doing here. It's about debt and deficit and spending.
You're going to have the last word.
The size of the federal government has just grown out of control. And I think that's the overarching question is how big does the federal government or the central government need to be?
Well, let me be clear. You're going to be asked to answer that question. People are going to be watching what happens over the next 100 days. Sean, you've made television history here. The first time that we've gathered this many people on live television, newly elected members of Congress, to talk about where they stand, where they